Hello guys. I've been in the laboratory recently, and I need to inform you that there have been serious advancements in Grendel technology. The safety override Grendel is a thing of the past. There is a new, much more dangerous Grendel on the block, and it uses a somewhat overlooked weapon that you don't see a lot. And it kind of just beats everything in the game, using less Grendels than the safety override build. So let's talk about it, shall we? So this new Grendel build came from the question of, how do I make a long-range sniper Grendel? And I ended up trying out so many different things, and I stumbled upon this particular build, and I was kind of blown away by how good it is. We're going to try it out against the Tritachyon home defense fleet. This is one of the super powerful fleets that defends the home system of every faction. Tritachyon has a very good one. Their ships all have like 3 S mods and maxed out officers, etc. So, what is this build exactly? Well, it's a non-safety override build. You can see I have over 800 seconds of peak active performance time. And it uses 5 hypervelocity drivers. If you don't know this weapon, I don't really blame you. It's kind of overlooked. You don't see it that much because it has low DPS on paper. The DPS is like 138. Just for reference, the DPS of assault chain gun, which the safety override Grendel build uses, is 500. So, why does this build seem to do such insane DPS, even though the weapons are low DPS? Well, these weapons, the hypervelocity drivers, they do high single-shot damage at 275, kinetic, and they have a long recharge time. Well, it turns out, on a Grendel, you can just put phase anchor, and phase anchor increases weapon recharge rate by 100%. You double the weapon recharge rate just with phase anchor, if you use phase properly, that is. And this actually stacks with accelerated ammo feeder, the ship system of the Grendel. So suddenly, these seemingly modest kinetic weapons are dealing around 600 DPS each, and you have 5 of them. And that's before even factoring in the built-in armored weapon mounts, which gives 10% fire rate bonus. So it's even more. It's more like 600 and something DPS per hypervelocity driver. And again, we have 5 of them. So it's not like you can just emit that kind of DPS passively. There is a kind of art to it, right? You have probably seen it already in the footage, but every time you shoot, you need to phase immediately afterwards, so you get the increased charge rate. And there's a kind of rhythm to it. It's easy to get out of the rhythm and end up phasing at the wrong time, and of course your DPS will go down. But you don't actually have to think about it that much when you have multiple Grendels. This build, in particular, scales with the amount of Grendels that you have way harder than safety override Grendels do. Like safety override Grendel, you can play that solo and you'll do very well. This build, you need like 3 or 4 Grendels to hit critical mass, and once you have them, the enemy is not allowed to have their shields up, and they're not allowed to have their engines operable because you have salamanders on this. Salamanders are anti-engine missiles, if you don't know. And they have infinite ammo, which is kind of sick. They do EMP as well, and it arcs to weapons. It doesn't only harm the engines of the enemy ship. And something else you may have noticed, Hypervelocity Driver also has an EMP component. So when we hit the armor of the enemy ship, their weapons are immediately disabled. Oh, and you just saw another benefit of the Hypervelocity Driver. It will pile drive right through enemy missiles, enemy fighters. If you shoot these weapons into a cloud of fighters from the enemy fleet, it kind of just evaporates. So like these are not point defense weapons. These are not made to combat fighters, but they turn out to be incredibly good against carriers. Simply because they will pierce through fighters and, you know, kill 10 of them per round, basically. So yeah, you can see here just how strong this fleet is. When you have massed fire of multiple of these ships shooting the same enemy, armor doesn't really do anything, even though these are kinetic weapons. They have high single shot damage at 275, and that favors armor damage calculations. The way armor works in Starsector, the more damage per shot a weapon does, the better it is against armor. So even though this is a kinetic weapon that's very strong against shields, obviously, it also does respectable damage against armor. Now, it's not like an assault chain gun, which will instantly strip armor. Armor is good, quote unquote, against this build, but there are caveats to that as well. Like, you can mount, if you're fighting an armor heavy faction, like let's say the Ludic Church or the Hegemony, you can mount Breach SRMs, which is a small anti-armor missile with like 30 ammunition that does armor damage that is not reduced by armor calculations. And so those missiles will strip the armor of whatever you're shooting very rapidly. And then Hypervelocity Driver does exactly the same damage against hull as a high explosive weapon. Kinetic damage has no damage reduction against hull, only against armor. In the interest of this video not being 20 minutes long, I'm going to speed up the footage. So you can essentially see the basis of this fleet. I mean, it is pretty simple. It's a mono fleet. There are things you could do that would potentially make this even stronger. And I would say this is already the strongest fleet that I'm aware of. Like, I don't think anything beats this that I know of. But you could make it stronger. You could add a couple safety override Grendels that would kind of blitzkrieg and you know, get control and potentially would strip the armor more quickly than these weapons can. There is a certain synergy to be had between this build and the safety override build. I think that would be interesting, and probably on like a fleet point basis, that would kill more stuff per deployment point of Grendel than a pure fleet of either of the Grendel builds. I think combining them would be pretty strong. Normally you worry about combining close range ships and long range ships because the brawler close range ships will block the sightlines of the snipers. But with Grendels, it's not really the case because they're phase ships, right? So those safety override brawler Grendels can get in there, and whenever hypervelocity drivers start, you know, coming at them from behind, they can just phase, and then they're not in the way anymore. They're not blocking the sightline because they have phase cloak. By the way, something that you're seeing in the footage every now and then is hypervelocity drivers actually have longer range than they appear to. Like, it's actually longer than 1000, which is their build range. They actually go out to like 1200 range, roughly. They dissipate a bit at the end and they lose a bit of their damage, but I mean, you can still snipe things that are beyond the range of the targeting reticle, like you see there. So talking about what this fleet is particularly strong against, obviously anything that relies on shields, remnants, Tritachyon, anything high-tech. It's also extremely strong against fighters, for reasons I've already explained with, you know, the piercing nature of the hypervelocity driver. I'm just doing a cleanup of the second re-engagement here. Sometimes Tritachyon will retreat their ships and then they'll come back and attack you again. So this is just the second battle. But yeah, there you go. Tritachyon Capital Assurance Fleet. Capital Assurance Reserve. That's what they call their home defense fleet. Beaten with 10 Grendels, and it was really, really comfortable. We could have done it with probably 6 Grendels, I would say. We can recover the ones we lost there. By the way, I've been following the Brawl Stars Starsector tournament, where basically players will fight their fleets against each other to see who has the best player fleet. using AI battles. And I'll probably download those fleets and I'll try my Grendel fleets against them. I do think the Grendel fleets will curb stomp everything, to be honest, but we'll see. Follow if you want to see that, and follow if you want to see more Grendel Sector, and till next time, bye-bye.